Today's case is one that has been bothering me for some time. You know, Judge Boyce, do you remember him? You know, the great guy that we loved so much from Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell's trials. Yeah, that he was our hero through all of that. He made sure it was fair, that the rights were being protected, all of the things, so there would not be any appeals issues. Love the guy. Well, I'm mad at him. And yeah, when this story first hit the news, I was very disturbed. Then death threats started coming to him and his family. That's not cool, guys. No matter what he did, death threats not cool. But I am mad at him because this case bothers me. I get it. I get why he did what he did, but I disagree vehemently. So let's go back and let's get some context on this one. So this young gentleman is Candon Dahle. He was a young man who grew up in Idaho and ended up on Brigham Young University's baseball team. Lovely, right? Yeah, not so much. He was arrested and charged on 2 different counties, mind you, in Idaho, Fremont and Bingham, for essaying a child for years. The story that we were originally told in the news is that he essayed her horrifically from the ages of 7 to 12 at minimum. Her first clear memory was age 7, but she knows it was going on before that because of how far it had progressed. She doesn't come forward for a little bit after that, understandably, and it's incredibly brave that she did as it was. So what we were originally told is that Candon Dahle, age 22, was sentenced to a minimum of 5 and a maximum of 10 years, but then Judge Boyce suspended the sentence entirely, put him on probation for 8 years, said, oh, he just needs to be in jail for 180 days, that's 6 months, and do 200 hours of community service, and does not have to register as an S offender. Okay, as part of the plea agreement, him pleading guilty, they lowered all the charges, so it wasn't even an SA charge anymore. So one of the counties completely dropped the charges as part of this plea deal. His plea agreement was to plead guilty only in Fremont County to 2 counts of felony injury to a child. So felony injury is not SA, therefore he does not need to register as an S offender.
No!
Yeah, he's no longer on the BYU's baseball team, for one. What we know now is that there was a mediation to see if they could avoid going to trial, which of course is the wish for a lot of people, because especially in these types of cases, you have children who have been through this kind of trauma, and to have to relive it on the stand in front of the public, that's brutal. So if they could get to some sort of an agreement without a trial, that would be ideal, right? So apparently they had a mediation with another judge, and it went on and on and on. It was one of the longest mediations anyone involved had ever heard of, because they couldn't come to an agreement, which should tell you something, that he doesn't want to take responsibility for enough. In fact, Lindsay Blake said, given that we held mediation, I'll say it's probably the longest mediation that I've been involved in. We mediated for hours to try and reach a resolution. All parties are involved in mediation and coming up with a resolution that would result in something short of ending up in a trial. The victim here, she's now 15. She was very adamant that she wanted him to have to register as an S offender at minimum and get some jail time. Understandably. Hello, right? After hours of mediation and Candon refusing S offender registry, she was told that she would face trial. So she made a painful sacrifice, but hoped it would heal the family. I feel like she was pressured into signing that agreement because he just refused to register. I really feel like she just felt like she was unable to hold her ground. I can't imagine this little 15-year-old child being the one to have to make this call against her 22-year-old. That should not have been the case. I'm wondering who told her that trial would be hard on her family, because I suspect from everything I've read so far, it seems like she would have had the courage to go to trial, but she didn't want to put her family through it. And that's why she agreed, but almost immediately regretted it. It's considered a binding plea agreement, which does not mean that the judge has to abide by it. In Idaho, there are non-binding and binding plea agreements. The non-binding ones are basically presented to the judge and say, here's what we think would be a great idea. And usually the judge goes, okay, cool, and does it. But he can instead just toss the whole thing out and come up with his own sentence. In a binding plea agreement, apparently in Idaho, they come up with this thing through mediation, and they hand it to the judge, and the judge either has to accept it in total or reject it in total. And if he rejects it, they go to trial. That's what we have in this situation. Judge Boyce was given this plea agreement that they went through mediation for, and then when he was sent on the day of the sentencing, the victim came forward and said, please do not accept this. I don't want this. Please, please, please do not. The victim and 3 of her family members gave statements that were just heartbreaking. This is the father. He said, I cannot even hug my daughter. Touch repulses her. She cringes and pulls away every time I make an attempt to hug her. Please let that sentence marinate for a minute. Listening to my daughter, her earliest memories of the abuse she can remember are of age 7. I wish I could show you the videos I have on my phone of her at that age. She is truly a gift from Heavenly Father. She is filled with pure, absolute joy. Her laughter is so contagious. To think she had to endure personal hell until the age of 12 is, at times, too much to bear for me. The stepfather spoke next. Dahle shed a single tear. And this is, in part, what the stepfather said. We're learning how this trauma has changed the way that her brain functions, and that this will be a lifetime of her dealing with this pain. She's had several days where she could not eat. She has lost many nights of sleep and has thrown up many times because of this trauma. I often find her in my arms, sobbing uncontrollably, asking why this had to happen. And the stepfather said that he had known Dahle since he was a child, and looks back and says that now he knows that some of Candon Dahle's behavior, now he can go, okay, you were pushing boundaries, those are red flags. But at the time, he didn't know. It just kind of made people uncomfortable with just like kind of crossing personal space boundaries. And he said he did these things right in front of me, in front of all of us. All I can think about is how wrong Candon's actions are. There isn't a day that goes by that some aspect of our lives is not affected by this. Now, the mother then spoke. She said that her daughter has been a fighter since birth. And then, quote, she suffered excruciating stomach aches for much of her childhood. Many nights were spent in pain and vomiting. This would come and go and was a constant issue. She missed so much school. My dad told me she looked like she had cancer. And I would add, that's cancer of the spirit or the soul. She did have something eating away at her. And the mom goes on, now I've pieced together that those painful nights were a child's body crying out from trauma. I can hardly get out of bed each day. And then she says, I asked if someone was hurting her, point blank. She wasn't safe enough to tell me then. I live every day with the devastation of not recognizing what Candon was doing to her. If Candon had shown any remorse, things may look different today. Finally, I walked into a detective's office with my daughter. This was painful for her. She told me she didn't want to do it, but she wanted to protect others. Oh, keep that last bit in mind, okay? Now, so this is part of what the victim said. My earliest memory of the abuse is 7 years old, but I know he was touching me before that. Almost every time we were together, Candon was touching me under my clothes. Some memories are so damaging because it was me holding in cries of pain while Candon was pleasured. I was just 11 years old when he covered my mouth because he didn't want the family close by to know what he was doing. And then she talks about her depression that she's experienced, how it felt when she found out he'd been arrested. Just every single day since I was 7, Candon has made me hate myself. I wake up every morning and have to give myself a reason to stay here. I want Candon to know that many days I have felt I would have rather ended my life than forced 7-year-old me to have to live through all those years of what he did to me. You forced me to keep your secret for 7 years. I sat through your baseball games. I watched the world cheer for you. I watched you achieve every church standing and be celebrated, all while I screamed inside because I knew the truth. So on a little side note here, this is the Latter-day Saint side. That means she saw him get the Aaronic priesthood, be ordained to the office of a deacon, a teacher, and a priest, and possibly even an elder when he went off to college. And the elder would have then been the Melchizedek priesthood. She watched him hit all of those milestones, which he was not at all worthy to do, which meant he was lying through his teeth to his leaders. Of course he would. This man apparently has no conscience. Oh, it pisses me off. And then she addressed the judge. She says, Your Honor, I have worked so hard the last 5 months to find things I love again because he took everything from me. I need you to know that if he gets off today, I will wonder for the rest of my life why I ever put myself and my family through this. Please don't take away the only part of this that gives me some sense of peace. Lindsay Blake, he was the prosecutor in the Vallow and Daybell trials. She was part of this. And she said that the court had received lots of letters in support of Dahle. She says, yeah, there's a lot of letters in support of him, but a person can be great and have a lot of great qualities, but they can still have another side. Yeah. Apparently, Dahle actually passed a polygraph at one point, saying that he wasn't SAing the victim. But to me, that just says he didn't feel bad about it, because a polygraph only registers like anxiety responses. If you were saying a lie, most people with a conscience will have an elevated physical response. If he didn't have an elevated physical response, that tells me he is a danger moving forward and will be forever. Dahle gave a statement. He cried. Were they real tears? Crocodile tears? Whatever. I didn't see it. He says he's sorry to the victim, to the victim's family, to his family. I'm thinking he said for his family that he's embarrassed himself. He doesn't understand, clearly. So one thing Boyce said is, no matter how all this resolved, there's probably going to be forever angst in this family. No kidding, Sherlock. That's what's happened as a result of your own selfish and foolish conduct. This strikes me as so unnecessary with all you had going for you. Excuse me, what? All that Candon had going for him? What about all that she had going for her? Or could have, if he had not completely screwed over her life for so many years? How about we not care about the young man so much? There's an idea. I don't know. Call me crazy. There is that misunderstanding that Dahle is now a convicted artist. He is not, because he pled to just felony injury of a child, which means he doesn't have to register as an S offender, and he's not convicted as one. And that does not protect anyone. The victim herself said that the reason she wanted to come forward was to protect other people, so this wouldn't happen to anyone else. Do we think for 1 second that this kid is not going to do this again? He probably has multiple other victims, but the fact that he got completely off and did this for so many years, this wasn't a one-off. He did this for years. Are you kidding me? He is going to keep doing this. He is a threat to the public. And at the minimum, he should have been held responsible for an SUL crime. So he would be a convicted artist. And so he would have to register as an S offender. Period. That should have been the minimum, but he refused to do that. And so maybe they should have pushed to go to trial. I feel so horrible for the victim because she thought that she was going to get at least a little bit of something, and it didn't happen. So immediately after the mediation, which they described as being incredibly emotional, the victim's mother said, quote, I had just watched my daughter express the devastation she would feel if the charges were reduced, which they were. So the Idaho Code, it's 18-8304, if you want to look it up, does not require you to register as an S offender because injury to a child could be anything. I'm still pissed that Judge Boyle did not just toss it after her family, the victim and her family, just begged him to toss it. This is what Boyce said in the moment. He says, I can't ever recall a sentencing where a victim asked me to reject the binding plea agreement. And this is after she spoke, and after her father and her mother and her stepfather all spoke and said, please don't let him get off. So he says, and after listening to the statements, I sat here and considered, should I do that? Meaning throw out the binding plea agreement. Should I just unwind the deal you reached? And the thing is, if they're asking him to unwind it, that means he goes to trial. That's what she wanted at this point. What did he do? Quote, I determined not to do that, and I'm still not going to do that. And then, this is according to KSL, Boyce acknowledged the difficulty of the case and stressed that it's important for victims to come forward so abusers can face some kind of consequence, even if it's not what they hope for. Do you think this is going to encourage victims to come forward? Especially people like her who came forward specifically to help protect other people, and now she's just been given this emotional torture and no one is being protected moving forward. And then Boy says it's a tough system. It's certainly not a perfect system. It puts people in all kinds of difficult positions. Oh, you poor guy. Do not threaten him or his family, his spouse, his children, any of that. That's disgusting. That's gross. And it's illegal. Don't do that. But I'm still just pissed at the man for not just tossing the binding plea agreement. He could have. He absolutely could have. That was in his rights. And the 4 people who were in mediation with Candon were begging him to toss it because they regretted signing it. It was a long mediation, which tells you it was difficult to even come to any agreement. And it only happened because the victim wanted to spare her family a trial. Not her family. And then when that came out, they're like, oh no, let's make sure. Never mind. We're happy to go to trial. You're going to try to sacrifice yourself again? No. But Boyce did that. We should have gone to trial, Boyce. We should have gone to trial. So this is my frustration and annoyance. I'm glad that there was a follow-up article. I'm glad we have more details because I was going to try to find an Idaho lawyer to explain things to me because I figured there had to be more, and there was. There was the mediation, there's the binding plea agreement, and the fact that what he pled to isn't an S offense. I'm still pissed. The Boyce did not toss it when he had 4 people begging for him to toss it and let this case go to trial. Because if there's supposed to be justice of any kind, it is to protect. I'm not necessarily big on let's just punish people. In some cases, perhaps. For someone like him, we need to protect society from a predator like Candon Dahle. And he's been doing this for so long. She's 15 now, he's 22. So when she was 7, he was 14. He was doing it before that. He's been doing this a good chunk of his life, which means this is ingrained in him and he's not going to stop. Society is not safe with him out there. This is not oh, poor guy ruined up his little chance to be a baseball star. That's not what this is. And I'm pissed that Judge Boyce would say something like, wow, you have so much going for you. And just leaving the victim high and dry, going, hi, what about me? Hi. And that she and 3 parents, father, mother, and stepfather, all begged him to toss it. And he just didn't. Oh, it's hard. I considered it, but I'm not going to. But yeah, I hope other victims come forward.
No!
I don't think that she necessarily wanted him to face life in prison, although, I think that would have been great too. She came forward again to protect other people. And Judge Boyce failed to protect the public. And no amount of chocolate's going to cheer me up after this one. Let me know what you think about this one. If you're pissed off at Boyce, please, by all means, sound off. But again, no threats of any kind toward him or his family or anything like that. This is the type of thing where hopefully we can just change something. I don't know if it is a legislative thing, if it's a culture among judges. I don't know. And I don't even know how the Idaho judge system works, if they can be voted out or how their system works at all. But Boyce did such a great job when it came to the Vallow Daybells crap. Is it just taking a child's life that bothers him, not destroying one? Because the victim's still here. Thank heaven she hasn't carried out her ideation of being otherwise. I'm so glad she's still here and fighting. But she shouldn't have to be fighting on this level. She shouldn't have to be. She should have come forward and known that the justice system would have her back. And they failed her. Let me know what you think. Like, follow, subscribe, all that good stuff. Really helps. I appreciate it. See you next time.